My boyfriend called me in a shaking voice and said another woman was pregnant with his child. He gave me her name, described the party where they supposedly slept together, swore on his mother and his dog that he was telling the truth, and sent me an ultrasound picture to prove it. He kept the story going for an entire day. When I finally told him that cheating and having a baby with someone else meant our relationship was over, he burst out laughing. "Got you," he yelled. "That was the payback prank." I ended our 2-year relationship a few days later. He never apologized. Instead, he spent the ensuing 8 years telling our friends that I had dumped him because I could not take a harmless joke. At dinners, parties, and reunions, he forced people to vote on which of us had been right. He needed everyone to say he had won. So at a reunion dinner 8 years later, I finally looked him in the eye and said, "Fine, you win." Then I whispered one small lie into his ear. Within 3 minutes, he was standing over the table, red-faced, demanding that one of our friends admit to a conversation that had never happened. When he had repeated the lie so many times that everyone could see exactly what he was doing, I smiled. Pranked. The whole table laughed. My ex did not. 2 days later, he began privately contacting our friends and rewriting the story again. That was when I realized embarrassing him for one night was not enough. If I wanted this to end, everyone needed to see the full 8-year record in his own words. My name is Leah Morgan. I met Ryan Bennett when we were both 24. For most of our 2-year relationship, he was funny, social, and easy to like. He was also obsessed with pranks. Not dangerous pranks, at least not in the beginning. He hid my keys and watched me search the apartment. He changed my phone's ringtone to a woman screaming. At restaurants, he told servers it was my birthday so they would surround the table and sing while I tried to disappear into my chair. Once, he replaced the cream inside my sandwich cookies with toothpaste. I usually laughed. Sometimes I became annoyed, but the jokes were small enough that objecting made me feel overly serious. Ryan always had the same response. "Come on, Leah, it's funny." That sentence gave him an escape from everything. If I laughed, the prank succeeded. If I became angry, my reaction became the new joke. Either way, Ryan won. The incident that started the pregnancy prank happened on a Saturday morning. Ryan had stayed at my apartment the night before. He woke up late, rushed through a shower, and came downstairs wearing work clothes with his laptop bag over one shoulder. I was sitting at the kitchen counter drinking coffee. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I'm late. For work." I looked at the calendar on the wall. It was clearly Saturday. Instead of telling him, I asked, "What day is it?" He grabbed his keys. "A work day." "What day specifically?" He stopped near the door. "Why do you keep asking me that? I'm just wondering what day you think it is." "Friday. Are you sure?" He pulled out his phone, looked at the date, and froze. I laughed. "You dressed yourself for work on a Saturday?" Ryan did not laugh. "That isn't funny." "It's a little funny. You let me shower and get dressed. You were moving very confidently. That was a terrible prank. I didn't tell you anything false. You confused yourself." He dropped his bag onto the couch. "No. You kept asking because you knew. I thought you would figure it out sooner." His expression became strangely serious. "I'm going to get you back." "Ryan, it was 5 minutes. I owe you one. You don't owe me anything. Mine will be better." He spoke as though we had entered a competition. I kissed his cheek and forgot about it. The next afternoon, Ryan and I were in separate parts of town when his message arrived. "We need to talk." "I'm so sorry." That opening immediately made me think of his threat from the previous morning. I replied, "If this is your payback prank, you need to try harder." His next message arrived almost immediately. "It isn't a prank. I got another woman pregnant." I stared at the screen. Then I laughed because the setup was too obvious. Ryan had announced that he would get me back. Less than 24 hours later, he was claiming another woman was having his baby. I wrote, "Stop, I know what you're doing." He answered, "I wish this were a joke." I called him. When Ryan answered, his breathing sounded unsteady. "Leah, please let me explain. Your acting is terrible." "I'm serious. You threatened to prank me yesterday." "This has nothing to do with yesterday." "Then when did you supposedly get someone pregnant?" He hesitated for just long enough to confirm what I already knew. "A few weeks ago." "Who?" "Her name is Brianna." I did not know anyone named Brianna in his life. "Where did you meet her?" "At Eric's party." "Which party?" "The one you didn't attend." Ryan built the story while I questioned him. According to him, he had been drinking. Brianna had been upset about a breakup. They talked in a bedroom, kissed, and slept together once. He claimed she had contacted him that morning with the pregnancy news. The details were vague where they needed to be checked and specific where they created pain. He insisted he loved me. He said he had made one terrible mistake. He said Brianna intended to keep the baby. "I know this is a prank," I told him. "You can stop. What kind of person do you think I am? The kind who told me yesterday that he was planning revenge. You're not taking this seriously because it isn't real." Ryan ended the call. 10 minutes later, he sent me an ultrasound picture. It looked as though someone had downloaded it from the internet and placed a name across the top with basic editing software. The word ultrasound was misspelled. I circled the typo and sent it back. This says ultrasound, Ryan replied. Autocorrect. Autocorrect changed a word printed by a medical machine? You're focusing on the wrong thing. I'm focusing on the fact that you made this on your computer. This is my child, Leah. The message made my stomach turn, even though I still did not believe him. Not because I thought a baby existed, because Ryan was willing to use that idea for entertainment. I told him again to stop. He refused. He swore on his mother that the story was true. Then he swore on Baxter, the dog he had raised since high school. How would you feel if I refused to believe you about something this serious? He asked. I would show you actual evidence. I sent evidence. You sent a misspelled ultrasound. You are being cruel. That became the most unsettling part. Ryan did not simply tell the lie. He began accusing me of failing him emotionally because I would not accept it. He said he needed support. He claimed he was terrified about becoming a father. He called me again and used a trembling voice. I need you to be an adult about this. An adult would stop pretending another woman is pregnant. You think everything is a joke. You are the person turning pregnancy into a joke. He continued throughout the afternoon. Every few hours, another message arrived. Brianna wanted him at the first appointment. He did not know whether he should tell his parents. He hoped I might eventually forgive him. He had already started thinking about shared custody. The story became more elaborate because I would not give him the reaction he wanted. If Ryan had shouted prank after 10 minutes, I might have rolled my eyes and moved on. Instead, he kept applying pressure for almost an entire day. By evening, I was exhausted. I no longer cared about proving that I had recognized the joke. I wanted him to stop. I called him. Let's pretend I believe you. You should believe me. Fine, you cheated and another woman is pregnant. That means we have to break up, I continued. There is no other reasonable outcome. He suddenly screamed with laughter. Got you. I pulled the phone away from my ear. It worked, he said. You finally believed me. I never believed you. You said we had to break up. I said it because you refused to stop. That counts. No, it doesn't. You believed it at the end. I was trying to end the conversation. Ryan sounded delighted. I told you my prank would be better. You spent an entire day pretending you cheated and created a baby with another woman, and you fell for it. I told you from the first message that I knew it was fake. You needed more convincing. That's not my fault. The excitement in his voice disappeared when he realized I was not laughing. Oh, come on, he said. Don't become one of those people. What people? People who make everything serious after losing. This wasn't funny. It was funny. You're only angry because I got you. I'm angry because you kept going after I asked you repeatedly to stop. That's how pranks work. No, that's how harassment works. Ryan sighed dramatically. You started it. I asked what day it was. You let me get dressed for work for 5 minutes. It embarrassed me. So you decided to fake a pregnancy for an entire day? You don't get to decide what level of payback is fair. That sentence changed how I saw him. Until then, I had thought Ryan's pranks were immature but basically harmless. Now I understood that his real concern was not humor. It was control. He had felt foolish for 5 minutes, so he needed to make me feel worse. When I recognized his prank too early, he kept escalating until he could force a reaction and declare victory. A few days later, I ended the relationship in person. We met at a coffee shop near his apartment. Ryan arrived expecting me to apologize. He sat down and said, Are you ready to admit we both went too far? I didn't go too far. You started the prank war. There was no prank war. You messed with me on Saturday. I let you realize it was Saturday by yourself, and I got you back. You pretended to have cheated and created a fake pregnancy for a joke for an entire day because you wouldn't play along. I looked at him. That sentence is the problem. What sentence? You think I am responsible for how far you took it because I wouldn't react correctly. Ryan leaned back. You're really ending 2 years over one joke? I'm ending it because you deliberately tried to hurt me, then blamed me for being hurt. That is incredibly dramatic. Maybe. You'll regret this. I don't think I will. He shook his head. We'll have to agree to disagree. No, we're breaking up. Agreement is no longer required. As I stood, he added one final comment. For the record, you still owe me an apology for the Saturday thing. You started all of this. Ryan began telling our friends his version immediately. He said I had ended a serious relationship because I could not take a joke. Sometimes he claimed the prank involved him being late to an event. Other times, he said he had pretended to forget an anniversary. The fake pregnancy became a silly text. The full day of lying disappeared. The swearing on his mother and dog disappeared. His accusation that I had caused everything disappeared. In Ryan's version, He made one harmless joke, and I destroyed our relationship. Some friends knew enough to understand why I left. Others found his short version easier to accept. Ryan told the story confidently and with a laugh. My explanation required several minutes and made every gathering uncomfortable. Eventually, I stopped correcting him. I thought ending the relationship would end the competition. Ryan kept playing. Months after the breakup, he texted me, "Still think you were the victim? Be honest, that prank was elite." I ignored him. Another message arrived a year later. "Just admit I won and I'll leave you alone forever." At a mutual friend's birthday dinner, he brought it up in front of everyone. "Let's settle this. Who actually overreacted?" People groaned. Ryan demanded a vote anyway. He went around the table one person at a time. Several friends refused to participate. One said we had both behaved immaturely. Ryan counted that as a vote for him. This happened repeatedly. At dinner parties, at holiday gatherings, at a wedding after party. Every time Ryan and I occupied the same room, he eventually returned to the story. "Round table," he would say. Who was right? The friends who had not known us during the relationship heard only his cleaned-up version. I looked bitter because I did not want to discuss it. Ryan looked relaxed because he had already removed every detail that made him look cruel. Years passed. We dated other people. Some friends married. A few had children. Ryan still wanted the vote. 8 years after the breakup, our old group organized a reunion dinner. There were 12 of us around a long table in a restaurant we had frequented in our 20s. Ryan behaved normally for almost an hour. I began thinking perhaps he had finally outgrown it. Then he put down his glass. "All right, we have almost everyone here." Several people immediately groaned. "No," Ben said. "We are not doing this again. I only want a final answer. There have been 20 final answers." Ryan ignored him. He turned to Wrong. "Me or Leah?" Monica looked at the ceiling. "I don't remember enough to vote." "That means neutral." "Neutral is not a vote for you." Ryan moved to the next person. He treated the dinner like an election. When he finally reached me, I realized I had two options. I could refuse and allow him to keep asking for another 8 years. Or I could let him experience his own method. "You know what?" I said. "Fine." The table quieted. Ryan leaned forward. "You were right," I continued. "I overreacted. You won." His entire face brightened. "Did everyone hear that?" "Yes, Ryan. She admits it. Congratulations." I motioned for him to lean closer. "I'll tell you something else," I whispered. "Ben told me years ago that he thought you won too. He only refused to say it in front of you because he knew you would never stop gloating." Ryan's expression changed instantly. I had chosen Ben because he was sitting directly across from us and had spent years refusing Ryan's polls. Ryan could have kept the comment private. He could have asked Ben about it quietly later, but Ryan needed public validation. He stood. Guess what Leah just admitted? Ben looked alarmed. "Why are you standing?" she said. Ben frowned. "I never said that." Ryan laughed. "Come on." "I genuinely never said that." "Yes, you did. You told her private neutral." Ben looked at me. "No," Ben said. "I don't even remember discussing it with Leah." Ryan became louder. "You told her I won. Just admit it." "Ryan, I didn't. You said you thought she overreacted." "I have never cared enough to take a side." Ryan pointed across the table. "You swore you agreed with me." Ben's expression hardened. "I just told you that conversation never happened." Most people would have paused. Ryan doubled down. Then he tripled down. The more Ben denied the conversation, the more certain Ryan became that it had occurred. He supplied details I had never mentioned. According to Ryan, Ben had spoken to me after a party, then it became a phone call. Then Ben had supposedly told Ryan about it directly. "You know you said it," Ryan insisted. "Stop changing your story because everyone is watching." Ben stared at him. "You're accusing me of lying about a conversation that never happened." "You are lying." Ryan was red-faced now, fully committed to proving something he had learned about less than 3 minutes earlier. I waited until he had repeated it enough that everyone understood. Then I said, "Pranked?" Ryan stopped. I smiled. "Ben made it up 30 seconds ago." For 1 second, nobody reacted. Then Monica began laughing. Ben dropped his head onto the table. The rest of the group followed. "You built an entire memory around one sentence," I said. "You insisted Ben admitted something he never said, and every time he corrected you, you became more confident." Ryan sat down. His face remained red. "That isn't the same." "It's exactly the same method." "No, it isn't." "You took a lie, kept repeating it, and blamed the other person for not agreeing. You set me up." "Yes, that is generally how a prank works." "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." "You've asked everyone at this table to vote on our breakup for 8 years. Ryan did not answer the first time since I had known him. He had nothing ready. Ben found me in the parking lot afterward. He was still laughing. The way he started inventing locations, he said. "First I told you at a party, then on the phone." He created an entire conversation while I was denying it. I knew he would. You knew exactly what he would do. He has been doing it to me for 8 years. My phone filled with messages from people calling it the best moment of the reunion. I went home feeling lighter. The following morning, Ryan texted me. Okay, I have to give you credit. That was good. You got me, truce. I read the message 3 times. There was no insult after it. No excuse. No demand that I admit he had still won the original argument. I replied, truce. For 2 days, I believed it was finished. Then Ben sent me a screenshot. You need to see this. Ryan had privately messaged someone in our group, just clearing up what happened at dinner. Leah and Ben planned the entire thing beforehand. It wasn't spontaneous. They coordinated it specifically to humiliate me. Ben wrote, 3 people have already asked whether this is true. He's sending the same message separately, so nobody can see that he's running a campaign. I sat down on my living room floor. Ryan had not offered a truce because he accepted what happened. He offered it so I would relax while he created another version behind my back. The truce was not surrender, it was cover. Later that day, my closest friend, usually careful. Ryan contacted me last night. What did he want? He was crying. I closed my eyes. He said you humiliated him publicly and he hasn't slept. He wants you to apologize. He asked you to ask me? I know how it sounds. Do you? Everyone was laughing at one person. It was intense. Kara, do you remember the 8 years of polls? Yes. Do you remember the messages he kept sending me? I know, but he said he feels like he lost all his friends in one night. One night, as though the previous 8 years did not count. Did Ryan ever tell you what the original prank was? I asked. He said it was something small and you became angry. What exactly? I think he pretended to forget an anniversary. I laughed once. There was no humor in it. He told me he got another woman pregnant. Kara became silent. He gave her a name, I continued. He invented a party where they slept together. He sent me a fake ultrasound. He swore on his mother and his dog. He called in a shaking voice and kept it going for an entire day. He never told me that. I know. He said you dumped him over a harmless joke. That is the story he has told everyone. Why didn't you tell me the full version? The question hurt more than I expected, because his lie took 10 seconds to repeat. The truth took 5 minutes, and every time I explained it, I looked like the person who couldn't let go. Kara apologized. Then she mentioned that she was hosting a small gathering that weekend. Most of the same friends would attend. Can I come? Of course. That night I searched my old messages. I had changed phones several times, but the conversations had transferred through backups. Everything was still there. We need to talk. I got another girl pregnant, the name Brianna. The story about the party, the fake ultrasound with the misspelled heading. I swear on my mother. I swear on Baxter. How would you feel if I didn't believe you? This is my child. Then the breakup messages. You are ending 2 years over a joke. You started this. The messages from later years, just say it once. Admit I won. Be honest. You know I was right. I captured every message and arranged them chronologically. When placed together, they did not look like one man telling one joke. They showed a person who had spent 8 years trying to force one woman to accept his rewritten version of reality. I also saved Ryan's truce message beside the private smear message. On the left, he admitted I had gotten him. On the right, less than 48 hours later, he claimed Ben and I had coordinated an attack at Kara's gathering. Nobody mentioned the reunion at first. Music played quietly. Monica sat on the couch with a glass of wine. Ben stayed near the kitchen. Eventually, Monica put down her drink. Are we going to talk about what happened at dinner? Yes, I said. But first, I want to explain what happened 8 years ago. Not Ryan's version. I read the messages in order. I showed them the ultrasound. Several people leaned closer to confirm the misspelling. I read the vows involving his mother and dog. I explained the phone call and the fake shaking voice. Then I showed them that the prank continued for an entire day. The room became quiet. Monica spoke first. He told me he pretended to be late to something. Ben shook his head. He told me he forgot an anniversary. Kara covered her mouth. That's why none of us understood why you were so angry, because none of you knew what happened. Then I showed them the messages Ryan sent after the breakup year after year. Admit I won. You know I was right. My prank was elite. Finally, I placed the truce and smear messages side by side. He sent me this on Monday, I said, pointing to the truce. By Wednesday, he was privately sending this to all of you. Kara looked at her phone. He sent it to me too. Ben raised both hands. I had no idea Leah planned to use my name until she said it at the table. There was no coordination. Everyone understood what Ryan had done. For 8 years, they had not defended him based on the truth. They had defended a simplified story he repeated until nobody thought to question it. Ryan texted Kara during the gathering. Who is there? She showed me the screen. What should I say? The truth. Kara replied that we had read his old messages. Less than an hour later, Ryan created a new group chat and added almost everyone. Can't believe all of you sat around reading my private texts and put me on trial without letting me defend myself. The responses arrived quickly. Defend yourself? Which message was taken out of context? Did you fake the pregnancy or not? Ryan ignored the questions. He said I had manipulated everyone. He accused me of planning revenge for 8 years. Ben wrote, "You have been forcing us to vote on this at dinners for 8 years. She discussed it once. Ryan claimed the fake pregnancy had been obviously ridiculous. He said no intelligent person would believe an ultrasound with a typo. Therefore, according to him, the real problem was still my reaction. Then he wrote the same sentence he had used after the original prank. If she had just laughed, none of this would have happened. Monica answered, "You told me she broke up with you because you pretended to forget an anniversary." Those are not the same story. Ryan's messages became longer. He repeated that he had lost all his friends because I could not take a joke. Kara finally asked, "You called me crying 3 days ago and said Leah went too far. Now you're saying it was harmless and she should have laughed. Which is it?" The typing indicator appeared, then disappeared. 20 minutes later, Ryan wrote, "If this is how all of you want to treat me, I guess I know where I stand. Thanks for 8 years of friendship." He left the chat. I expected relief. Instead, I felt tired. Ryan had damaged his own friendships, but watching it happen did not feel like victory. The following evening, Ben called me. "Ryan wants to meet." "Why?" "He says he owes me an apology for accusing me of lying at dinner. Be careful." He sounds calm. That is, when he is usually planning something. Ben agreed to meet him at a quiet restaurant. Before the conversation began, Ben placed his phone on the table. "I want to record this so neither of us misremembers it later." Ryan consented. Ben sent the recording to me afterward. Ryan began with a convincing apology. "I shouldn't have put you on the spot. I shouldn't have claimed you told Leah I won. That wasn't fair. Thank you," Ben said. Then he waited. Ryan could not tolerate the silence. "But I think Leah used you." Ben said nothing. "She planned the whole thing to humiliate me and chose you because she knew you would play along. That isn't what happened." Ryan lowered his voice. "Come on, just between us. You don't think reading private messages to everyone was too far? The messages showed what actually happened. It was a joke from 8 years ago. You faked getting another woman pregnant for a full day, then spent 8 years demanding votes. I wasn't demanding votes. I was starting friendly discussions until every person answered." Ryan shifted in the booth. "Let me ask you honestly, do you think I'm a bad person?" Ben took a moment before responding. "No, I think you are a person who cannot handle being wrong. And I think that has cost you almost every friendship in the group." There was a long silence. When Ryan spoke again, his voice cracked. "I only wanted someone to say I wasn't crazy. I didn't want to be the villain." For several seconds, he sounded honest. He was no longer performing confidence. He sounded like a frightened man who had repeated one story for so long that admitting the truth would require him to question 8 years of behavior. Then he ruined it. "And honestly," Ryan continued, "if everyone had voted before Leah pulled that stunt, I think I would have won." Ben waited. "Most people would have said I was right," Ryan added. Ben's answer was quiet. "You're doing it again." Ryan stopped speaking. "You are literally doing the exact thing we are discussing. You are still trying to win the vote." According to Ben, Ryan's expression changed. Not anger, recognition. For one brief moment, he finally saw the pattern while he was repeating it. Ben told him he intended to share the recording with the group. "Not to punish you," he explained. "You keep telling different versions of every private conversation. This way, everyone can hear what you actually said." Ryan did not argue. After a long stretch of restaurant noise, he said, "I think I need to stop talking to everyone for a while." Ben replied, "That may be the first honest decision you've made about this." He sent the recording to the group that night. I listened 3 times. During the third, I realized I was no longer angry. I did not feel triumphant either. For 8 years, Ryan had made me wonder whether I was too sensitive, too serious, or incapable of letting go. Enough people repeated his version that sometimes I questioned my own memory, even while the original messages remained on my phone. Now his pattern existed in his own recorded voice. He apologized. He redirected blame. He asked for sympathy. Then, within 30 seconds of admitting that he only wanted to know he was not the villain, he reached for the imaginary scoreboard again. That had never been my problem to solve. It was his. I placed my phone face down on the nightstand. For the first time in 8 years, I did not wonder when Ryan would bring up the prank again.